I get asked, how can I become a DIT? I really want to learn how to work as a DIT. And it's not as easy as it may look. But if I've trained actually quite a few DITs and have had a few DITs or data managers work through the DIT house here and train them up to be DITs, and now they're working as DITs. But not only knowing the computing side, which a lot of times they feel most comfortable in, but also understanding photo science and color science and understanding photography. Those are equally important because what we're dealing with is cinematography and imagery. So, and then also working with the rest of the crew. You know, this is a collaborative art, and working with other people and not just being difficult, or it's important to work well together. If you want to be a DIT, I think you should learn camera protocol, because we have a lot of checks and balances that you learn by working in the camera department, but also in addition to all the computing and post software. So and then knowing the set etiquette. The amount of responsibilities that the DIT has these days are quite a bit. And they aren't always appreciated or understood by production. But it definitely helps if you have a background in camera or have more experience working on set. I find that the DITs that come from post might struggle a little bit more with some of the on-set etiquette, and might butt heads a little more with some of the other crew members. But so yeah, our responsibilities vary quite a bit, but I personally have a background in camera and was a first AC for 15 years, and started another company that dealt with on-set color correction as well.
Majority of the job is communication and translation. If you can communicate better than the next guy, then people are going to desire you more. And I don't mean communicate when you're talking to a camera assistant. I mean how you communicate the work that you've done to the next person down. How you've communicated that you've shot 95% of the day at 120 frames a second, but you have two rolls that are 24 frames that need to be sound sunk. And how you communicate that through a media log, through a camera report, because sometimes stuff is shot without a camera report. Hey, I need to doctor up a camera report, and I'll make one out of what it is. That advice really is I would say shadow a DIT, contact a local 600 DIT. Majority of the time they're going to be qualified. Shadow them. Be an impeccable labeler. Understand and know how to work Excel or a Word document. It's not all about the color program. And then take the time to learn color science, to learn what a matrix is, to learn what color is, what's happening when you push the ball to the left, and lastly, how humans interpret color. Because at the end of the day, a DIT is not a data manager. They are a little bit of a technical mind, but at the end of the day, they're the first line of defense in color, in exposure for the cinematographer. They're there to translate that to the DIT. And if you can be as soft-handed as possible with the DP while still being helpful, is going to be the perfect balance. And the way I would say to be a real DIT, just get experience. Just get as much experience as you can. I mean, that is the ultimate train. I have a guys I know, even big jobs. There's the few things that you were asking me before of things for a DIT to know. It's like it's really color, it's data. What's happening? Binary. What's data? What is data? Power. All right, they're all intertwined. You can't have one without the other. And another thing is also your own eye. What your eye is going to do. What your eye is going to do to deceive you. And that's what I was talking about with the DP walking everywhere and doing stuff and looking at monitors, looking at this, and director's over here in his own little box making judgment calls about stuff and on a crappy ass monitor that VTR brought. And it's like, I know everyone's job a little bit. I know a little bit about sound. I know what he's given me and what I should expect from him, but I also know a little bit about time code. Time code is really important, actually, hugely important, especially if you're shooting off speed and 24 frames at the same time. How the clocks advance faster, and then you go back to 24 frames, and oh wait, it's now snapped into time of day. Oh wait, now you have overlapping time code from earlier because one clock is advancing faster than the other, and it's just stuff like that. Is time code, data, color, power. Those, if you can master all of those, then you will be an amazing DIT. And obviously personality, because it's what's the saying? It's 80% personality, 20% talent. That's 100% true. 100% true. And some guys just want they want more talent than personality, and others want vice versa. They want more personality than talent. So they can get away with that as long as they're comfortable with working with people for 18-hour days for 10 weeks at a time. It's stuff like that. It gets important. Stuff like that.
So if anybody wanted to become a DIT, the first couple things I would tell them is you need to know the cameras, you need to know editing, and you need to be very street smart. Not street smart as in being able to be on the street and be smart, but having a common sense about you, because a lot of people aren't technical. So know that if something goes wrong, your first thing is double check what's going wrong. Make sure it's actually wrong. Then turn whatever it is off, turn it back on and see if that fixes it. The basic troubleshooting that you'd go through with any sort of computer-based system, because most of these cameras, that's what they are. They're just computers. So you need to have a very good technical background in that. It will very, very much help if you have a color correction background or an editing background, or at least are familiar with them and their workflow. Because a lot of times, especially when starting off, you kind of gotta know more technical stuff so you can kind of dazzle people a little bit. Because as a DIT, when you're starting off, you're probably going to be working projects that are only giving you like $75 to $100 a day, and the producers and people hiring you have no idea why they're hiring you, because usually their response is just have a PA go and do it, which is not a good idea. I've gotten so many times where I've gotten projects from people and there's footage missing or corrupt footage, and they had no idea because the PA is just popping it in, walking away, coming back, popping it out, and not doing the things that we do. So have a lot of technical knowledge so you can dazzle them up front so that they know that they are getting somebody who's technically responsible and knows what they're doing. And then the only other thing the only other advice that I'd really have for somebody getting into the industry is make friends with your producers and make friends with your DPs, because those are the people who are going to be hiring you. It used to be way back when where the DP would get hired and then he'd hire his first AC and the first AC would hire everybody else underneath. But there's so many camera owner operators out there now that they're the ones who are hiring their crews. So you get a DP who is not only supplying the camera, but he's also the one calling and supplying the first AC, the second AC, and the DIT. And if you make those connections, it doesn't matter the project that they're on, they're going to call you and they're going to give you work. Call you and they're going to give you.
My advice to students is to grab yourself a technical foundation. In my case, I came up through broadcast engineering. I learned the technical right and wrong ways to do things by coming up that way, and I've been able to apply that those that skill set to on-set digital cinematography. Coming out of, with the advent of computers now more prevalent than ever, students have a really strong foundation of digital data management, much more so than I ever did. I came out of the analog television world and had to transform into the digital television world, and it was quite a learning curve, I have to say, as technology evolved as quickly as it did. Students entering into this field really need a technical foundation, in my view. Not to say that it has to be an old school application, but it does have to have, you have to have a very good on-set etiquette, a very wide level of communication with all departments, and when you're on set and you're interning, let's say, in this particular field, sit back and listen and learn. Don't come across like you know it already and I've been there and done that. It's really a measure of trying to grab a technical foundation and coming in from there. If you have a question, ask it. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's the key. If you don't know something, admit you don't know it. Trying to cover up the fact that you don't know something by trying to do something can also make something very, very much worse, almost to an expense on a production. Ask questions. If you don't know it, ask. It's learning the technology. It's reading. I still read the manuals when I always have a hard copy of a manual with me on a camera. If I'm using a particular camera on a particular show, I have a hard copy of the manual. Sounds like it's old school, but if there's a problem, I'm there. I have it. I have it.
So you could say, you know, what does a DIT need to know technically? Well, once you go through your own homeschooling and your own reading, or you can take courses and be spoon-fed this information, I think it's better for you to do it yourself. Read books, watch films, check out webinars, and there's a lot of material out there. And you'll realize that, you know, what's in a gamut? What is a color space? And what's the difference between them? I mean, they're just gamuts and they're just color spaces. And then the more you study them, you go, wow, there's actually a lot more to it than that. You know, not each gamut is the same. And then you'll go deeply into it. Wow, I could really push the blacks, and I can really push the greens on this level, and I can really see into my blues, and I can display complementary colors on the opposing scales if I use a P3 gamut space. And then the more you go into it, then, you know, you'll go back to what Bruce said. It's like, well, he could have just said, you know, a gamut is just a gamut and a color space is just a color space. They're just tools. They're just standards. And ultimately, I think it's when you come to that appreciation and that realization, and then you value yourself because of the amount of, you know, exercise that you've done, seeing something that's very plain and ordinary and turning it into something that is quite extraordinary, and you leave a bit of yourself in that, and you can walk away and go, yeah, if no one else likes it, I do. You know, you're answerable to yourself, because that's where you get hired. So a director will come up to you and say, what do you think? And you can look at them square in the eye and you go, yeah, we nailed it. We absolutely nailed it. That's the one.